please welcome Nick Castle, Tom Atkins, and Richard Masur. You have microphones or switches on the sides. Let's flick those switches up and you should be good to go.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 5, 7, 9.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't listen to him.
Aliquippa.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got to turn it on.
Yeah, I'll use this one. Thank you guys so much for spending the time with us today. You are in some of the most iconic horror things. Nick, I know you've been here before. Have either of you other guys been in the Pittsburgh area? Not this one.
Not this one.
But have you been to Pittsburgh? Have you been to Pittsburgh?
It's my first. I grew up here. It's my hometown, but it's my first Steel City Con.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
This is Tom Atkins. He is Pittsburgh, my friend.
Absolutely. So, everyone has a first horror movie. The first one that you actually joined. You've done other roles. When you looked at the horror movie script, how did you decide that this is what you wanted to do? How did you get into the horror genre? I know, Nick, you have a very odd tale on that, but why don't you sort us out?
Yeah, I'll start because of the three of us, I'm the best actor. No, I'm the only person that isn't an actor that actually is a horror icon. No, and many of you know the story, so I'll go quickly. I was a film student with Mr. John Carpenter at the University of Southern California, and when he started doing his movies, I would hang around the set. And on this one, I said, "Hey, I'm going to hang around the set again." And he said, "Well, put on this mask. Let me see you walk." "Okay, you're going to be the killer." And I went, "Really?" And he went, "Yes." And that's the extent of my acting career.
How did you choose the horror movie that you wanted to do?
Yeah. You're up. Okay. So I never chose to be in horror genre, but my former wife, Garn Stevens, was dear friends with Adrienne Barbeau, who was going with John Carpenter, and Adrienne said, "Come and see Halloween. It's a movie that John just made," and we went to see it, and it scared the shit out of my wife and her girlfriend and me. And afterwards, somehow getting to know John and just be with him, he ended up inviting me to be in The Fog, and it went from there. He's a wonderful director.
So this is really the Garn Stevens story because Garn, Tommy's first wife, Tommy and I were friends since 1969 from theater. We did a Broadway show together. We've known each other all that time and loved each other. And he was married to Garn, and Garn and Tommy and John and Adrienne and I would sometimes get together at a gathering, and that's where I met John. And John called me in to talk to him about The Thing, the movie The Thing. Now, I grew up with The Thing from Another World. Like, I saw it in the theater. That's how old I am, okay? And I thought, oh, wow, they're remaking this. And I also had read the book, Who Goes There? So I was, like, totally into this. I read the script. I loved the script. I went in to meet with John. He said, these characters are still available. Do you have one that you'd like to do? I said, I want to do the dog handler. He said, yeah, but he gets killed early, and really? Is that the way? He doesn't say much? I said, I love this guy. I love how he hates people. And how he loves the dogs. That's how I got into my first horror movie, which was The Thing. And I have another story, but it'll take too long to tell you, so I'll let it go there.
Awesome. If you have questions, please pop on over here. We're going to make a line. Because these guys are great knowledge of an era where practical effects, instead of all the CGI, were just the rule of the day. Sir.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing? I met you guys earlier, named Sheldon. For Tom, I've always wondered, as much as I've watched you in movies and whatnot, like Halloween 3, The Fog, Escape from New York, do you have a personal favorite movie that you were in?
Do you have a personal favorite of these horror movies that you did?
Night of the Creeps is my favorite. We just have more fun doing that than any other one I've done, although I really love doing The Fog. I love doing all of them, but Night of the Creeps was a pure-ass hoot. And we were down at some college south of L.A. and shooting around all these nubile college girls. And we were young back in the day. And it was just a lot of fun, and I had a lot of wonderful lines in the movie. That's my favorite.
I should explain very quickly. Tommy, you want to tell the story of what's going on with this now? Okay. Should I?
Yeah, I can't hear for shit.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Thanks for the question.
I'm a huge fan of all three because each one of you, I have, all the different DVDs that that are my top. You three are my top because, obviously Halloween, that's just, that's the top. But, Tom, your Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, I mean, people don't get that credit, but that's one of our favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, they left him out. That's why it was so good.
And again, Richard, that's again. So I really don't have too much of a question. I'm just freaking out. That's all. But again, you three are my top.
Listen. Don't freak out. We're only here because you guys are here. If you guys weren't here, we wouldn't be here. So thank you all for being here. I know you always thank us, but you got nothing to be nervous about around us.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to have a question because I'm here. But, again, with John Carpenter, we met him last time. So how was it like to work with John Carpenter? And then also with Richard, what did you think about the update of it?
Oh, we'll start over here with the handsome person on the left. As I mentioned before, I knew John as a film student with me, so he was just kind of buddies. So I never was in awe of his direction. I just thought, oh, here John's doing another movie. But for instance, when we were in film school, I was the cameraman on a project. He was the assistant cameraman. And then he would do his movie when he was a senior, and I would be the gopher for that movie. So we had that kind of relationship. So, it's always been buddy-buddy. And the fact that he invited me to be part of his career was very instrumental in me having a moderately successful career as a writer and a director. So, and when I come back from some of these conventions, the first thing I do is I call John and say, I owe you another free lunch. And we go out. So John should thank you for the free lunches. That's it.
Those guys made a lot of music together, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So working with John was pretty much a pleasure. He's not the most personable guy in the world, but he was nice to work with. He knew what he wanted, and he let you get there. And he He did ask me once to do less. That he thought I was a little bit over with my acting, and he told me to step it back a little bit. And I always thought if I did that, I would just disappear. That nobody would know I was there, or even hear me, or anything. But he was a good director and a lovely guy and a wonderful musician. I was fortunate enough to go to the Homestead Musical Library or whatever the hell's wonderful old historical venue here in Homestead, and hear him and his son Cody and their band play stuff, movie stuff that John wrote. And it was a wonderful day. Wonderful. Okay, thanks.
So for me, I was in John's first fully funded movie. I mean, it was his first high-budget film, maybe his last high-budget film, actually. And it was, I think, a very different experience than these guys had with him because, you know, it was a cast of, I forget now, I think 12 of us, and this was a great group of experienced character actors and a couple of young guys, but mostly experienced character actors. And we all liked each other's work, and John somehow got convinced that we should rehearse before we did the film. Now, this is not common in films, and certainly not in horror films, I don't think. But we did. We sat around a table for a couple of weeks, went through the script, worked on it. The writer was there. John was there. We were on a sound stage at Universal. And we would come up with these little ideas, and we'd try stuff, and we were developing all these character dynamics between us. Again, very unusual, I think, for this particular kind of a movie. And at one point, shortly after the movie was released, someone asked John if he had anything he regretted about making the thing. And he said, I let them rehearse. I never should have done that. Because we kept holding him to all the stuff we talked about. Oh, no, this is how don't tell us to do that. Meanwhile, John had storyboarded every frame of the film, and sometimes we wouldn't do what he had on the storyboard, and it drove him nuts. And one day, I'll just tell you this is a true story. When we were shooting the scene where Charlie Hallahan's head comes off his body and drops on the floor and then goes scuttling out of the room, and Dave Clennett, who played Palmer, says, "You got to be fucking kidding me," okay? Which was the biggest laugh in the whole movie. We shot it. We shot all this stuff. Not that. That happened later, running across the floor. But we shot the scene, and John said, "Okay, that's it." And I said, "You didn't do a close-up on David Clennett." And he says, "What do you mean?" No, look, and he shows me the storyboard. He said, "That line's going to play over the head, crawling out the door." I said, "You have to shoot a close-up of Dave. It's the greatest line in the movie. You got to shoot it." And I just beat him up until he stopped, and he shot the close-up. And of course, that was the biggest laugh in the movie. You're welcome.
You turned it off, Richard.
He will deny. He will deny that, by the way.
The other part of that question, though, was, Richard, what did you think of the update to it?
Oh, sorry, I spent so much time on that answer. The update to it, I liked it. I thought it was. Let me just push back a little about CGI. CGI is great. It's not the other stuff. It's not the stuff we did, but it's great. And I am perfectly willing to suspend my disbelief to watch CGI, just like I was to watch King Kong moving around in the 1932 version. You know, you have to go with it, guys. Let's get over the CGI thing. But I happen to like the practical effects. It was amazing to watch what Rob Bottin created in his studio. and then how that all worked in the movie. It was extraordinary, and that was a great experience for all of us.
Yeah,
I don't think I
definitely.
answered the question.
I think you did. Yeah, definitely CGI, they do amazing things. It's just you guys didn't have the benefit of that, and you did amazing things, and that, I think, deserves
And there are a bunch of people who are in love with practical effects who are making these films now, like the Terrifier. That's all practical stuff, and the director is a psycho for that, is what I was told. He loves doing practical stuff, and I applaud that. We should be pulling every trick we can out of the bag.
Absolutely. You have another question here?
So, I have two questions. Well, one for Richard. I was wondering, what was it like to work with, like Kurt Russell and just the whole really ensemble cast?
Well, I touched on that a little bit, in my other answers, so I'm not going to go over that ground. But like I said, we were a group of experienced actors and with significant senses of ourselves, some of us, and so we clashed every once in a while. But Kurt and I developed a great relationship. I loved his work. I always loved his work. I think he's probably, of our generation, one of the least appreciated of the actors of our generation. He and Jeff Bridges were my two heroes in terms of being great actors. And his range of work is extraordinary. So working with Kurt was always a pleasure. I did another film with him after that called The Mean Season, which, if you haven't seen it, watch that movie, The Mean Season.
And my other question was, in the Halloween... Hello? How long did it take to film the two Halloween movies that Tom and Nick worked on?
I have no idea. How long did it take? Halloween 3? Is it another Halloween movie? No. I think it was only Halloween 3. And how long did it take to film it? I don't know, a few weeks or so. Where did we do that? Halloween 3 was, oh God, it was a studio down in Hollywood and up in, Santa Maria, I think is a little town above Pasadena, and a bunch of places. Oh, and there's an old movie called The Body Snatchers, right? From the 50s. And we shot in a bar in that little town above Pasadena called the Buccaneer Bar, which we went there 5 years ago. It's exactly the same as it was in the 80s, and had a party there that night. But it's right kind of across the street from the square in the old Body Snatchers where they passed out all the pods out of the truck. It was terrific to be there. And I want to ask, how many of you are from Pittsburgh? Yeah. It's my hometown. I grew up here in Knoxville, Mount Oliver, went to Carrick High School, went to the Navy, went to Duquesne University, and then went to New York to be an actor, and met Dick a couple summers later. And I love Pittsburgh. I live back here now. I lived in New York and LA for a bunch of years, but then I moved back here, and I've been here longer than I was anywhere else. Thank you.
And he would like to invite all of you to his house for a big steak dinner next week, 8:30 on Easter.
As long as you're on the other side of the Squirrel Hill Tunnel. And he'll explain that to you later.
The answer to how long the shoot was for the original Halloween was 20 days. So 1 day short of 3 weeks, which is pretty amazing for that amount of work and for the professionalism that the crew had for a young group of people. One a piece of information I think anyone here that I'm sure a lot of you all know about, a good resource for behind the scenes information is my friend, my agent, and a very good documentarian named Sean Clark has a series called Horror's Hallowed Grounds that you can see on YouTube. That for instance, he takes Tommy Lee Wallace, the director of Halloween 3, to those locations, and has all kinds of detail that I think would be of interest to folks that enjoy that kind of stuff.
Awesome, good question. And remember, you can't go visit that bar quite yet. You're not quite.
For Tom, having worked with John Carpenter and George Romero, I just wondered if your experiences, you saw a common thread that made them both good at what they do. And Nick, thank you for Last Starfighter, by the way.
George and John are completely, totally different kind of men. John, like I said earlier, was not the most personable person I ever met. George, on the other hand, was like a giant bear who loved to hug people and was easily the most open and unthreatened director I ever met. And it was a pure joy to work with George. And their work turned out to be pretty much the same. I think they both basically knew what they wanted out of a scene and allowed you to get what they wanted out of the scene. And the movies turned out terrific. And I miss George terribly.
All right, we have another one.
Hey guys, just first off, I want to say thank you to all three of you for the impact that you guys made on the genre, as well as my life, as well as a lot of other people's lives. Halloween 3 is definitely a 180 from the whole Michael Myers story, and this is for Tom and for Nick. I just want to know, what were your initial reactions to that, and can you guys speak on the legacy of the film as far as that goes?
The legacy of
Season 3.
As far as I was concerned, by that point, I'd gone off on my merry way directing my movies, and only peripherally was aware of what was going on with John and Tommy. But I did see the movie when it came out, and I know the strategy was to go away from the Michael Myers thing, thinking that had played itself out, and they were going to go for an anthology series. This would be the first one. So they were certainly surprised when no one else wanted the character of Michael Myers to die off. And unfortunately, it had repercussions with the release of the movie. Wasn't a success at the time, but as we know from fans here and other people, and over the years, people have had a new appreciation of it as a standalone movie, and really enjoy it. And I always thought it was very well done. And again, I'm in that one too, because they show a clip of Halloween in it. So you see how I sneak into a lot of these. That's it.
Which means he had to get paid for it, by the way.
So Halloween 3, the change in direction, no Michael Myers. Tommy Lee Wallace directed that. He just wrote a book called Halloween 3, Where the Hell is Michael Myers? And it just came out. You can find it on Amazon. And
Tommy wrote the foreword.
It never
Tommy wrote
occurred
the
to me that there was anything. I loved the first Halloween, and I didn't see the second one. And by the time the second one came out, I think we were beginning to work on Halloween 3. And it never occurred to me that people would be upset because there was no Michael Myers in it. But they sure let us know when they come up to us and say, "What the hell, I went to see Michael Myers and he wasn't in it. What's the matter with you?" And I eventually got to the point where I said, "I don't give a shit if you were upset about Michael Myers. He was never intended to be in the movie. And I think the movie stands alone on its own, and it's a good film."
See my previous remarks about CGI, by the way. It's the same thing. Roll with it. Roll with it.
Good question. Next.
Hey, gentlemen, just want to say thanks for coming today from everybody. Nick, this one's for you. When you took the role as the Shape in the first Halloween, and it was just kind of handed to you, but did you ever think here many, many, many years later that Halloween would still be going and become like this huge-ass thing now?
I knew it right away. No, I had no concept. You know, this was a movie that I knew John was doing. His last one was a good movie, but didn't get a lot of play. His first movie was a good one called Dark Star and didn't get a lot of play. And so I was just hoping this would get him onto his next movie, not thinking it would be anything more than a cheap-ass horror film that, at the time, the genre wasn't very popular. And so, so to our surprise, obviously, it became a big hit and a big iconic thing. And, you know, it wasn't until about 10 years ago or so when this same person I mentioned before, Sean Clark, who's an agent for these kind of shows, came up to me saying, "Nick, we want you to go to a convention." I said, what are you talking about? What is that? And he explained to me the whole thing, and I resisted for a year or two, and I didn't understand you people. I didn't understand what you wanted of me. All I did was put on a mask. Come on, guys. But then I realized, for different reasons, it's a lot of fun to meet the person that was the original Michael Myers. I really got into it, and so that became really my introduction to the longevity of this character. But to answer your actual question, I had absolutely no idea that this could have this kind of staying power. But what does, really?
All right, so this question is going to go to Tom. Tom, my name's Jonathan. I'm also from Pittsburgh, too, just so you know.
Also from Pittsburgh. Oh, he's from Pittsburgh.
Yep, born and raised. So the question I was going to ask you has to do with a film that we almost had coming our way 12 years back, but sadly never got to see because the directors that were on that project were, of course, Todd Farmer and Patrick Luzier, and sadly their time was occupied with Drive Angry at the time. So Tom, the film that they were going to do back then was going to be a follow-up to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 called Halloween 3D. You've heard about that, right?
Did you ever hear about a movie that was supposed to be made called Halloween 3D?
Yes.
Well, what happened?
Yeah, I did. I heard about that movie. It was supposed to follow the Rob Zombie line of Halloweens.
Yes.
And Patrick Luzier had the idea of doing Halloween 3 and having me be a...
Dr. Kibner. That's the role that they were going to assign to you.
Yeah, a doctor.
Dr. Kibner.
A doctor in a mental hospital. And supposedly taking care of the character Scout played and some other the girls. And I thought it was a wonderful idea, and I was looking forward to doing it, but it never happened. I'm not exactly sure why, but it never nobody ever gave him the money to do it.
And the reason why they didn't give you the money to do that was because, you know, they had a lot going on. And as far as their film schedule, their time was occupied with a production by the name of Drive Angry. It starred Nicolas Cage and Amber Heard. But, you know, had they gone with Halloween 3D, we would have seen the return of the William Shatner mask. We would have seen you make a comeback to the franchise. We would have seen a batshit kind of crazy story. And it would have been really insane had we got what we almost had. And like, they didn't approach you for the film. They sort of did, but
Do you want to come up here?
I mean,
thanks a lot for your heartfelt comments on why the movie wasn't made. But we have nothing to do with any of that, and we can't help any of it. And if they ever get it made, there are a lot of movies that were really good ideas that didn't get made.
But what if there was like...
Let us move on to something else.
Wait a minute. What if there was a motion comic that was made based on that story?
Okay, I think you're about to pitch something, and we're not going to do that now. Thanks for asking.
I have a really hard time hearing, but I'm getting turned on when Dick starts whispering in my ear. It's scary.
Hey, this is a family show.
Mine is a very simple question, and it is to all of you. What was your favorite kill out of the movies you've done?
Favorite kill?
The pick in the jaw in Valentine 3D. For my kill, yeah. I didn't kill too many people in the movies I was in, I don't think. A couple of zombies in Night of the Creeps, but my favorite kill was the pick in the jaw in Valentine 3D.
Nice.
You killed a lot of people.
No, a few. I never liked Bob. You know, I never liked Bob.
Wait, Bob is the promoter of this event. Different Bob.
Different Bob.
Different Bob.
This was the Bob and PJ, you know that character. Never liked him. Didn't like even the actor. No, I'm kidding. No, but so anyway, I had fun pinning old Bob up to the wall of the kitchen. That was about my favorite.
And I got shot in the head. I don't know. You know, mine was pretty unglorious, but a lot of people objected to the fact that I got killed because they thought I was a good guy because I liked the dogs. But you didn't focus on the fact that I hated the people, so what's wrong with you?
We all like dogs. Next.
I got a question for Mr. Nick Castle. Mr. Castle, Halloween ends. The end of the movie. Closer. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Halloween ends. At the end of the movie, it gets a little cartoony, almost like Tom and Jerry. Hopefully, you're the right person to ask this question, and hopefully, it hasn't been asked yet. Just how much blood does Michael Myers have in his body?
Yes. I don't know the answer to that particular question. It is a little bit confounding.
It's a little more than you thought he had, apparently.
Yeah, a little bit more than. Well, I mean, not so much in Halloween Ends, but how about Halloween Kills? How much blood does he spill in that one and live to kill another day? So, sorry if I know this is Ends is a very controversial ending to that
he's
trilogy.
Being stabbed
some people
multiple times,
hate it,
and
some
then-
people love it.
Yeah, he's bleeding all over the place, and then finally, spoilers, they take him and throw him in a wood chipper and blurp. It's like, how much? This guy is his own walking blood bank. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, it's a movie. It's not real. It's not real. You got to roll with it. I'm going back to this theme. Roll with it. Don't overanalyze.
He had enough blood to fulfill the plot. There you go.
Hey, Nick, this one's for you. When Tommy Doyle looks out the blinds and he's looking across the street at the shape, is that you or Deborah Hill? I've been hearing.
We often get confused, you know.
Well, no, I've been hearing two different things, that it was Deborah Hill or you, because you can't really, you know, how tall you are, 6 foot.
No, well, he's mentioning a story that's been going around ever since the movie was made or become an iconic fable about Deborah being in one of the shots where maybe I went home early and they needed someone to put on a mask. But the shot that they used to represent that is definitely me. And again, I go back to my friend Sean Clark, Horror's Hallowed Grounds, and his website, where he actually does a piece specifically about that, debunking that rumor. So, not that, by the way, it's always good when someone brings up Deborah Hill to honor one of the great creators and founders of this franchise who's no longer with us. So that's nice. Give a little round of applause to Deborah. And also who was the producer on The Thing and many of these movies, including Halloween 3, and just was a pioneer of, you know, and a strong woman producer for, you know, that really set a certain standard in the industry. So she's honored by us. She's honored by other women producers and directors, and she just died too young. Boy, she would have had a blast meeting all of you.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing I regret.
Right, and for those of you who are old enough to get this, I knew Deborah Hill. Deborah Hill was a friend of mine, and he is no Deborah Hill.
And Nick, I have one last thing.
So, hey, I have a question. I have a question for us. That we're all here in this room, we all love film. So, what is your favorite film, Nick, Dick, Tom, not in the horror genre? I will start. My favorite film to watch is Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman from the 1942s, I think. And every year around my birthday, I like to go into the family room, put the CD of, or pull it up on something of Casablanca, have a Pepsi and a bag of Lay's potato chips, no wife, no dog, no nothing, and just watch Casablanca and cry for 2 hours.
Well, my favorite is a 40s film as well. But, you know, my background is my father was a choreographer, so I grew up with the musicals. And I love that genre. And my favorite musical probably of all time, there's some close seconds, is Meet Me in St. Louis with Judy Garland.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So this is because it was at a critical time in my life. I was a teenager, and my favorite film that I've probably watched 25, 30 times was Lawrence of Arabia. It's one of the most extraordinarily beautiful, visually conceived of films. I'm sure there are a lot of younger people in this room that have never seen it. Go stream it, look at it, strap yourselves in. It's really, really long. And in this day and age, it's really weird because there are a lot of white people playing a lot of Arabs. But there is one Egyptian playing an Arab, and he's great, Omar Sharif. But it has great performances by everybody, and just gorgeously conceived of, and endlessly entertaining and moving.
All good recommendations. I think we're down to our final question, sir.
Yeah.
For Tom, could you share any stories of working with James Garner? And for Nick and Richard, any other significant actor you'd like to. And we've done all the positives, but is there any movie for each of you that after the fact you'd say, oh, I wish I hadn't done that one?
Good question. What was it like to be working with James Garner? That's one question.
Yeah.
And the other one is there anything after the fact that you thought, oh boy, I wish I hadn't done that movie?
Oh. It was wonderful working with Jimmy Garner. He was a lovely man, a lovely actor, and so were the rest of the people. But he was terrific. And we even got to do, I only did 6 or 7 of the episodics, but we did 3 movies of the week in the 90s, where I was promoted from Lieutenant Alex Steele to Captain Alex Steele, and I got to shoot one out there when I took my wife and my son with me, and we're in the middle of a take, me and Jim having our usual combative scene with each other. I'm going to throw you in the slammer. No, you're not. I'll call Beth. She'll get me out. And all of a sudden, I hear over the speaker my son's voice saying, Rockford Files, take 3, scene 24, pages 1 and 2. Charlie Apple.
Yeah. For those of you who don't
just
understand,
cracked me up. And Jim was in on it, and he laughed, and it was a lovely experience. I loved him. And there was a second part of this?
is there anything that you did, a film or a TV show that you wished afterward you hadn't done?
No. I loved every job I ever got. I was always thankful for any job I ever got, and I never regretted any of them.
For those people who didn't understand what Tom was talking about, back in the day of film as opposed to digital, but even on digital we use this. There's a thing called a clapper. You've seen this a lot of times. And on the clapper, on the slate is written the name of the picture, the director, the scene number, the setup letter, okay, and the take number. And that's what he was reading off. So his son was reading what ordinarily the camera assistant would read before they go click, and they did that to be able to sync the film. Okay.
Oh, what movie would I have liked to forget?
How did you like working with James Garner?
Oh, how did I like with James Garner? I remember working with him while I was watching him. No, in movies. No, I never worked with James. The one movie that really sunk my career was Mr. Wrong with Ellen DeGeneres and Bill Pullman. And it is forgettable. And
it wasn't just your career, my friend.
And right after that, Ellen decided to be gay. So really, I take all the credit for her career going forward. Because if she had been an ingenue, straight female actress, she probably would have got 3 or 4 more parts. But she went on to be, of course, a wonderful TV, whatever you call those people, talk show host. And a lovely person, by the way.
I also never worked with James Garner. I take great pride in that. No, I met him once. We were both going through customs into Canada to work on different movies. And when we used to only make movies in Canada for reasons that are way too long to go into here. And he was a darling man. He was very, very nice to me, and I was happy to meet him. And in terms of, I'm gonna cop to Tommy's answer. I'm always, always grateful for the job. There are some movies that I'd rather people didn't see, but I didn't regret making them because it paid my bills, and it's what I do for a living, and it was all good. But thank you for the question.
And thank you all for spending this time with us. Everyone give them a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Keep it going. They're still in the room.
Good news, everyone. You can subscribe to Fandom Spotlite for free. What? That doesn't seem right. And this says have fun and follow your fandom, whatever that means.